Good afternoon, everybody. I've put up on screen a quick PowerPoint that I'm going to be sharing with you to go through the FAST project. This is based on the handouts that I sent out. I can do this again, and if Denise then wants to share them, if that's necessary, that'd be fine. But we'll be recording the presentation so this can be shared more widely. And then once we finish, we'll get the phone back on, and I can answer any questions, hopefully. And if I can't answer them, then I'll just field them, take note of them, and get back to you as soon as possible. But hopefully this will be clear enough for you so you can get started with the FAST project itself. So the purpose of the project is for each of you, the students, to set up a one-year research-based project by creating a PLC in your school that will focus on improving student achievement, student learning, on something that you have diagnosed as important in your school. The idea is that you'll have in the PLC a team of 3 to 5 teachers who volunteer for the project, and that you, with your principal mentor, will actually have the conversation about what you want to achieve in terms of student learning, and then who the bigger group of teachers from which to select from that you will approach in order to create the PLC. The PLC itself then determines the focus, implements it, or designs and implements the actual plan, and then evaluates the results of the project, looking at the student data pre and post of the exercise or the experience, and bringing in as well the teacher VAM scores that of course will be treated in confidence, and I'll get to that in a minute. So the framework of the project itself is for it to actually be planned in coordination with research that the district is doing already, and that's being implemented in the schools. And the FAST components, they should include, as I said, the data collected at the beginning and the end of the project that have to do with teachers' interventions in the classroom or in the school, monitoring individual student performance throughout the project. So you as the participant, the idea is that among the objectives, you'll be developing your leadership skills, both distributive and democratic leadership skills, and working in conjunction with your principal mentor. And that you'll be developing this action plan with the PLC, focusing on the development of effective teaching strategies that will impact the student learning that clearly you've identified as a need. Your role as a participant then is to recruit the PLC team members, to develop the plan and lead the team through this one-year-long professional learning community focused on the identified area of need in conjunction with your principal mentor. It is important for you as a participant that you communicate regularly on the status of the FAST project with your principal, that you obviously update the principal on any changes, and that you also share the obstacles you have found, work on those, and obviously share the successes, and hopefully celebrate the successes with the PLC and anybody else linked to the project. The principal's role, and it's important that you communicate this with them, and I'll be glad to actually work directly with the principals as needed, or with the elite administration team, so that they have the orientation that they need as the principal mentor of the project, and that they participate with you in the selection of that PLC, the team members. We've actually put 3 to 4 to 5. There isn't a limit to the number of teachers in the PLC, but a standard would be not less than 3, and obviously not a very large number to not make this project very complicated. And the idea is for the principal to meet regularly with you as the participant to review progress, to make sure that you have the support that you need to make sure that the project is going through successfully, and to iron out any difficulties, to open the doors for you to get the access you need to the resources you need, to confidential documentation that you will treat with utmost respect and confidentiality, and in that way to be able to make the connections you can with student learning and the PLC itself. As you will see, there should be connections with your internship tasks, And as these come up throughout the program, you'll be making these connections yourself. The process, of course, of the project itself is to conduct this comprehensive analysis of the student needs, much of which may have been conducted over the summer and early fall in terms of your own data analysis in the school based on the results of the FSA and others, and other data analysis within the classroom, within the school, in order for you to be able to design that intervention plan. So there should be nothing coming out of the blue that's unusual or unexpected or a surprise. It should be part of the school business to actually develop this plan that obviously, which is based on actual data analysis. The idea is that you will create formative assessments of students to look at the pre-intervention status of the students and the teachers, and then the accomplishments, including the idea of bringing in the teachers' VAM scores and how these are impacted or influence teacher development and student accomplishment, hopefully. For us in leadership preparation, sometimes it's quite difficult to show the connection between VAM scores and student learning in math and reading and science particularly, but the closer we look at these scores, perhaps the closer we can get to actually demonstrating the connection between teacher interventions, their evaluation, and the feedback loop that will then impact student learning. That is a challenge, but our research for the FAST project that then impacts the Wallace grant and our partnership is part of that required element or dimension of the grant process. The implementation, of course, for the PLC must follow whatever protocol you have in your districts, in this case for both St. Lucie and Martin counties. And the idea is that you will meet regularly across the fall, spring, and early semester, and that in the fall of 2018, you will be ready with the completed project to be able to present that as a fully designed, implemented, evaluated, and completed project where you can demonstrate a trend in learning that you've impacted throughout the process. The meeting times and the frequency will depend on the needs of the PLC, the school calendar, and whatever other needs you might determine. The progress, as I mentioned before, the implementation can be and will be incorporated into the internship courses as part of that job embedded experience, but that needs to be discussed with obviously your principal mentor and your internship instructor. So it's ideal that we're actually having this presentation here at this time, even if this is shared more widely than later as a recording or in other conversations with the principal mentors. The evidence at the end of the process will determine the measures that you will be using for evidence of the success of the implementation. But it must be tied to student learning, and it must be tied to pre and post assessments of some form that you have used to collect data in order to be able to show the connection between one and the other. The measure and the report of the results will be part of the summative assessment meeting that will be held with the elite administration, which of course is the partners, both the district partners and the FEU partners, at the end of the final summer semester or in the beginning of the fall in mid-August or towards the end of August. The VAM scores, as I mentioned, of the PLC members will be submitted for the research to take place at the end of the project, but these will be kept obviously anonymous. They won't be shared in any way or form other than as confidential data that we will aggregate and use for purposes of research. The timeline that I'm sharing here is to be confirmed and negotiated. The first one is Denise Rodriguez will have communicated with all of you that we will be having our first, the next formative assessments in October 4th and 5th, according to what group you're meeting with. And during that session, we'll be looking at the development, your first ideas for the topic and the PLC work of the FAST project. Then again in October, the idea is that you will be creating that team during October. And as from November of this year and going through to August of next year, you'll be meeting with the PLCs and developing the actual project. So hopefully in December, we'll be able to have a midpoint discussion where we can have another formative assessment where we can actually monitor progress, make improvements, and provide supportive feedback, and obviously address any concerns that may have arisen during the initial phase of the creation of the PLC and the start of the project. And then, of course, in the fall of 2018, you'll be presenting the results of the outcomes of the project during the fall seminars. Just for your review, and this is part of the rubric that I shared in the handouts, this is the 4 elements that we've created for you to think about as you prepare the final presentation. So here's a rubric at the exceeds expectation level. So these, I'm not going to go through these all, as you can have them here. You have them here, and I will share them again as needed with the group. But these are for you to consider as you prepare your folder and obviously your final presentation. And that actually concludes the presentation. So at this time, if Denise wants to call me back, I'll be glad to answer any questions. And of course, this recording I'll make available as soon as it's ready.